Oh boy.
Well, time for us to get canceled, Kyle.
Yep. It's been an interesting few days, I can say that.
Yeah, yeah. This is there's occasional moments like this in politics where it's just like it just goes off the fucking rails. And meanwhile, this is all happening at the exact same time as Abdul has that razor thin like win over Haley Stevens in Michigan,
Yeah.
which is like an awesome moment.
With
Really
all
love
that
that
money you
moment.
spent, like insane.
Yeah, dude, fucking 60 million, dude. 60 million. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Just a
But
bit.
I would I would love to remind everybody that that should tell you something about big money in the face of people power. And that matters a lot. So for
Mhm.
all those folks out there saying, "Well, you can't do it without money." Pretty sure people power won the day on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
So we're gonna deal with this.
All right, I guess we gotta. All right, we'll start with the
It's
what are you gonna say?
kind of obligatory.
Yeah. All right, so we got a couple things here. So we'll start with the WMUR piece on this. Just let that play.
Trans people existing does not affect your everyday life.
At the State House, Representative Alice Wade and Representative Heath Howard had been allies. Now they are at odds. Wade says last year when she was exploring a run for Congress, Howard, already a declared Democratic candidate in the 1st Congressional District, began pressuring her not to join the field. In a statement to News 9, she said, quote, Representative Howard called me repeatedly, asking me not to run for Congress, using various methods, including telling me multiple times that he believed as a trans woman I would be unable to win higher office in New Hampshire. Responding with his own statement, Howard said, quote, intent and impact are different things. It was never my intent to reduce Alice's candidacy to her identity, but I recognize that my words caused unintended harm, and I sincerely apologize. Wade's allegation is not Howard's first brush with controversy.
Why did you vote for it? You look at our record and you tell me what you've done.
He made headlines last year for heckling Senator Jeanne Shaheen at a major Democratic Party fundraiser. Earlier this year, News 9 reported on a text exchange between Howard and then Democratic gubernatorial candidate John Kiper, in which Kiper wrote women, quote, run the party, and Howard texted, quote, yeah, but that's why we keep losing. Howard later denied he was suggesting women are the reason Democrats lose races and blamed the exchange on bad cell phone service. Representative Wade says she came forward now, 5 weeks before the primary, because, quote, my intention was to put the information in front of voters. What they make of it is up to them, and the choice in this primary is theirs.
While not the front runner, Howard has been the leading progressive candidate in the polls.
A setback like this does not help the momentum, and it's going to trigger a new conversation behind the scenes among Democratic voters in the 1st District.
Adam Sexton, WMUR, News 9.
Yeah. So that last bit was
Most of this video was kind of unrelated, if you want to, for being honest about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, we're gonna have to discuss that last little quote from that political analyst. He's gonna just this whole situation is gonna start a bigger conversation, buddy. You have no idea. That conversation was like, I don't know, 50 leagues deep by the time you said that. Some fucking political analyst you are.
Right.
So here's the thing. Everybody's probably familiar with the fact that Kyle and I have been loosely associated with NH Talk, which was originally just a hashtag that started out on TikTok. And I didn't know it existed really until last year when I started doing locally sourced again. I had taken a big hiatus, started doing locally sourced again. And I was like, fuck, I should probably get on all these like short form media, networks and do little promo videos or whatever. And so for the first time in my life, I joined TikTok because I've always hated short form media, video clips and stuff like that. I've always identified it as brain rot. And I feel so much more confident in that position today than I ever did before. But I joined just to, join TikTok just to do that, where I found the NH Talk tag, the little hashtag, because everything on TikTok, their algorithm very much so was based off of the hashtag format. Then that was like how you would get your stuff out there. And that got me linked up with a bunch of other creators. You know what I mean? Like people that had sort of been building loose, decentralized community through that particular hashtag as a way to sort of like signal to other people like, hey, we're all part of this broader progressive movement in the state. And if you're a content creator, that's sort of like where you go and what you do and how you engage with people. And they actually set up a Discord server. Several of the sort of the key figures, some of the more influential people in that particular space set up a Discord server. And for the past year, it's been growing like crazy. And it's been a very good sort of like internet based source of connection for people who are just trying to like stay locked into what's going on. You know what I mean? If you wanted to find out about like local food drives or, keep tabs on events or whatever, right? Like you could just go there and you could do that. And that portion of it, yeah, exactly. And that aspect of it hasn't stopped being very, very productive, right? Like, and the community has been growing and growing and growing over the past several months. Now, there's a lot of discourse that occurs in that server. And the more people that entered into that server, the more discourse occurred, the more debates occurred, which is like maybe a little tough for people, right? Because as anybody who's familiar with anything knows about the left, you can't get more than 3, maybe even 2 leftists together without starting a pretty fucking serious fight.
Right.
And, with all due respect, I don't think the moderators really understood what they were getting themselves into at that. And so cue this whole moment isn't necessarily the first time that there's been broad, like, salacious moments that have been examined by that server, but this one really sort of set cracks throughout that entire community. And things started to get pretty contentious. Kyle and I are both members of that server, and per server rules, we will not be sharing any screenshots from that server. It's just not how it works. Like, I won't do it. It's that's them's the community rules.
Right.
Maybe now is the time to show our next clip.
Yeah. So this is someone who was a moderator on NH Talk here. She put this out earlier today.
Hey, New Hampshire. You haven't seen a lot of me the last few days because I have been busy modding in the NH Talk Discord. What a week. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, congratulations. That sounds really nice. That sounds great. The TLDR is that Representative Heath Howard, who is running for Congress in CD1 in New Hampshire and who I have very vocally supported, was publicly called out by a friend, colleague, former friend, I don't know what to call that situation, Representative Alice Wade, who is also an incredible legislator, for making transphobic comments to her when she was considering a run for the same seat that Heath is currently running for. And then everybody that saw that came into this server where I am a mod and wanted to hash it out with Alice, with Heath, with each other. We are not cut out for this. We are just trying to connect people to like volunteer opportunities. All of the mods, all of the people in the server also have lives. This does not need to be as urgent as we're making it out to be. Many things can be true at once. It can be true that Heath made transphobic comments intentionally or otherwise, and also that he cares deeply about trans rights and that his voting record shows me that. It can be true that that experience was shitty and awful for Alice, and also that the timing of this announcement was shitty and awful for the progressive movement in New Hampshire. It can be true that we have to take into consideration the race as a whole and what our option will be if this tanks Heath's campaign. And it can be true that people are doubtful of someone who calls Gaza a war instead of a genocide. Two things will be influencing my decision at the polls. And I don't think you should care about who I'm voting for, honestly. I'm fucking nobody. Whether or not I have seen apologies, accountability, and some kind of improvement by then. Also, the opinions of my trans friends. Now, I happen to be a person who most of my trans friends work for Heath Howard's campaign. So do with that information what you will. In the meantime, what we're not going to do is make transphobic or ableist comments. We are not going to act like somebody shouldn't be able to speak out about their experience just because the timing sucks. We are not going to act like people are wrong for this being a line where they can no longer endorse Representative Howard. It is up to Heath and nobody else to garner more support from elsewhere to make up for that. If he's going to be able to make the changes that he's promising, he'll be able to get that done with the help of all of my cool trans friends that are on his campaign team. If you care deeply about progressive policies and you were voting for Heath and this is a line for you and you can no longer support him, Carly Berriant is the only other progressive choice in the race. Make educated decisions. Go check out the actual policies of the people that you're supporting or not supporting. Primaries, September 8th. If it's not going to be Heath Howard, it better be Carly Berriant. Hey, New Hampshire.
Yeah. So, okay. I think the reason we're showing this particular piece from the mod team is because other members of the mod team have been very, very clear in their specific denouncement, unendorsement of Heath Howard. Now, what you're not going to hear from either Kyle or I this evening is any kind of like direction in which we land on this issue. And, you know, like, I think the first top line reason for that is that neither one of us live in fucking CD1, dude. So we can't even vote in this race, right? Like, we have, in a sense, we have no horse in that race, right? Now, people look at analysis and comments that Kyle and I have both said in the past where we were basically like, yeah, Heath is probably our best shot. That was our analysis, especially at that time. And from a statistical perspective, because the polling data that's been provided in that particular race has been anemic, to say the least. The only polling data we have to go off of right now for that race is the St. Anselm poll that came out in June. And as WMUR noted in their piece, he's the standout candidate by that polling metric. He's got triple the points of the next two people below him. Right. So from that perspective, he's the only real competitor. Now, given that I'm not going to pick a side, what we're going to do is we're probably going to be critical of both parties here, because that's the most appropriate thing to do. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to talk about the ramifications of what this particular grenade, I would argue it's more like C4, did to the community, right? So what I'm going to start with here is I'm going to start with this one little piece. This is a conversation that should be had between the trans community and basically nobody else. Period. Yeah. If you are not a member of the trans community, I would prefer, personally, and the irony is not lost on me that I am like a straight white guy fucking saying this right now. If you are anybody other than a trans person, with the exception of maybe somebody from the disability community, because I think that also plays a very, very serious factor in all of this. And let's be clear, there are a lot of people that are members of both communities. If you are not a member of either of those communities, maybe sit down and shut the fuck up. Because you don't necessarily have any power to pass judgment on this, right? Now, Kyle pointed out something pretty funny earlier. I'll let you take it from here regarding that one comment that he saw.
Oh yeah, that was absolutely.
I think you know what I'm
insane.
talking about.
Yeah. Hold on a sec. Should I find exactly who it was, or just like the basics here?
Don't necessarily put him on blast, but maybe just like, because again, this isn't necessarily about singling out people, but what we're going to be talking about here is we're talking about the broader conversation surrounding this particular controversy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get to where. Where did that go? I'm sorry, I'm dead airing over here.
You're good, man. I mean, like I can carry it for a second while you find it, but look, needless to say, this disagreement caused like it showed a very, very different fissure in that particular online community, that particular Discord server. I saw people that I generally see being like on complete opposite sides of a debate traditionally, all of a sudden become like completely aligned with each other, right? I'm talking about people like extremely far left people all of a sudden having precisely the exact same take as like hardcore liberals. And most of it was incredibly emotional in both, like from both camps, whether you were in support of Heath or you were in support of Alice. I saw immense emotional reactions regarding this. Now, what I also saw was a lot of people saying things like, well, I've spoken to folks and I've heard things and I've seen things, and it really gives me pause. It really gives me doubt. And the critical part of my brain when I see stuff like that, and I had said this like a while ago regarding Christian Rudia and disagreements that I had with Andrew Valinsky, and don't worry, we'll get to that later. That trust me, bro, is never, ever, ever, ever an acceptable reason to believe somebody. The moment someone says, trust me, bro, and can't explain the specifics of their argument, you need to question that. It's just, that's just healthy critical thinking, right?
Right. So yeah, the thing before it was somebody was posting about this and talking about their own perspective as a trans woman and their support of Heath, and somebody had commented on that like, oh, I'm the chair of this this caucus or whatever, so I do get to speak for trans people or the trans community, and it's like that's just like a wild thing to say, and I like. No one person is a representative of their entire community. You know what I mean? Like you don't get to say like I am the representative of this like entire diverse community. Like no one has all the same beliefs just because you're in one community or another. So I said put that part out there. That's just insane to me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I mean, like, I think I think for me, when I look at this, my immediate thought, if I slow myself down, right? If I slow myself down, take away the fact that like Kyle and I have really like appreciated Heath's campaign a lot up until now. You know, despite the fact that neither one of us can vote in it, right? We look at him and we
Right.
think, like,
It's
generally
the
speaking, like
policies.
he's been
Like everything he's been pushing for and the
exactly.
stuff he's been trying to get past already, and his record on that, and just never backing down from stuff. Basically,
Right.
is that's the kind of politician that we're looking for. Basically, is the set your standards early and stick to them, and that's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. And so just from like purely based off of like record and based off of platform and issues and generally speaking like positions that are articulated, those have been on paper essentially perfect, right? Like um and I think for us it would be really really like it would have been nice that like yeah, sure, maybe we're not able to elect our first transgender US congressperson, which is a bummer. You know what I mean? But we are able to maybe elect one of our first disabled congressmen. And to be able to do that with the endorsement of DSA is incredible.
Yeah.
To Bridges' point in her piece, Heath has not lost his endorsement from DSA. Maybe worth pointing that out. They haven't unendorsed him. And there are a significant number of people from the trans community that still stand behind him. So that starts to beg the question, well, like, what are the specifics of that internal conversation? And the answer to that is that that's not for us to know, right? At the end of the day, this kind of seems like it was a personal disagreement that occurred between two young
Right.
people whose brains are not fully developed, right? That have amicable disagreements between them, right? We know that both Howard and Wade are fantastic progressive legislators in the New Hampshire State House, right? We're not impugning either of their records in that sense. And I don't just mean on like transgender or disability rights. Both of them have stood up like and stood 10 toes down for workers, right? They've stood 10 toes down for like so many really, really important issues. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, people want to rally behind the identity aspect of this. And what people aren't doing is they're not looking at like all the good that both of them have done, right?
Yeah.
They're not examining why now, right? There was a lot of discussion about how this has all been going on for months, right? And I
Right.
think a bunch of us that exist more on the inside of this are very acutely aware that this has been going on for months, right? That this is a whole thing. And without delving too much into it right now, because frankly, Kyle and I have covered this stuff before. So like if you're really fucking wondering about that, you can go back, you can watch some of our previous streams that we've done where we've talked about the internal issues related to the House Progressive Caucus, some internal disagreement that's occurring there. You guys can maybe check out the interview that I did with Arya Shams. I think that would be a
For sure.
productive watch. You know what I mean?
We can link
help
that
try
in
and
the
like
description.
yeah, just some things to help try and like contextualize all of this, right? Like I think that's healthy. You know what I mean? I think it's really healthy to do that. And again, this isn't about like villainizing either one of these people because like regardless of their disagreement on this, regardless of who hurt whose feelings in what context, what damage those comments did, um whether you're talking about like, you know, accusations from Howard's campaign about how he had, you know, in discussions that had occurred on the NH Talk server that had come up that that basically way back when this race started, there was like a general concern, at least from Heath Stelling, right? Like this is from Heath's side, so it's hard. Like, and we don't have recordings, we don't have any like material evidence to base this on, and they've both acknowledged that this is basically a he said she said problem, right?
Yeah. And a
which
lot of the
makes it
discourse
really.
had occurred
Yeah, go ahead.
in the NH Talk Discord as well, like uh, right in the middle of like all this stuff getting put out. So and you can still see some of it, like statements from Heath in the which section was it? In the Congress section, I believe.
Yeah, I think they have so that particular server. Then again, I'm not like hey, NH Talk people, we are not trying to dox you. I mean, if anything, I actually would hope that more people go join the server, go get engaged with it in
Right.
that sense. Um, but because I think they still want it to grow, they still want it to develop. Even though they're facing challenges right now. But it helps to expand the discussion. But they have it really deeply broken down by channels. There's a lot of different channels that you can
Right.
sub to in there, and they have a section where they allow like specific discussions related to U.S. Senate, to governor, state house, executive council, cities, how to donate to candidates, stuff like that. There had been a channel, right, that was created several months back. And the name of the channel was called Brother Respectfully.
Mm.
And that channel was created because disagreements were starting to crop up. As more people came into the server, folks would say things, people would disagree with each other about stuff. Sometimes it get pretty fucking heated.
Yeah.
Like really fucking heated. And look, like in full transparency, like I was a participant in some of those incredibly heated debates. And I actually put people off a couple times because, for my own part of it, a lot of what I intend when I'm typing doesn't, like, a lot of the dry sense of humor that I
It's
have does
hard to
not come
read tone
across in text
via
form.
text.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you were
you don't
saying
have
before
tone,
there.
you
That's
don't have inflection.
yeah.
So things that I said were, sometimes relatively inflammatory for some people. They got really offended, and I chose separately to pull myself away from those discussions. I was like, hey guys, like I'm not doing this anymore because like it's like upsetting for some people, and maybe in moments where I'm thinking about things like I'm not in the same place on the continuum as other people, and like it's good for folks to find a way to get comfortable with this space, get comfortable with being in political discussions and activism and stuff like that, and I don't want to shut that down, so like I deliberately removed myself from those situations. But those debates led to a thread dedicated to disagreements to be created. Like this is Carter's jersey is hung in the rafters of Brother Respectfully.
Yeah, exactly. Hall of
So
Fame.
hilarious. So at any rate, like I and I really did try personally to like stay as respectful as possible, even when I was doing things that were sort of tongue in cheek, and maybe my sarcasm was getting a little too out of hand.
Sarcasm.
And I own that. I will respectfully, brothers and sisters and emperors, acknowledge that maybe I went a little too ham on you guys sometimes. So I apologize for that, for real. But when all of this news broke, it went haywire. It went absolutely haywire. Now, the mods had previously tried to instate a slow mode on it to get people to like think about what they were saying before they posted it. That didn't do anything. That did not help at all. Let me tell you. Like one might think that it would, right? And I guess it in the sense that like it slowed down the speed of the chat. It did not do anything to alleviate the intensity of the disagreements. Because I had sort of deliberately been like, hey, I'm not doing this arguing thing anymore, right? I spent a lot of time just sitting back and watching it, watching the conversation kind of roll by. And I saw so many unrelated fights break out because of this. Yeah. And that taught me, like, it reminded me of a couple things. And I think this is where we get to the point that, like, we can sit here and we can litigate like the ins and outs of Keith and Alice and their disagreement. I don't really think that's especially productive. I think at this point stuff is out there. Any proper analysis done on this needs a lot more time in the oven to bake. So for Kyle and I to sit here and do that analysis right now would be us like shooting from the hip half cocked. Like it's not a good idea for us as analysts or as commentators to be trying to like divine the takeaway from that at all. It's just not right. It's not appropriate at this time. We need to be able to look at more information as it comes out. I'm pretty certain that more evidence is going to come across at some point or another. But from what I saw, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, you're free to like tell me that I'm you know, if you're disagreeing with anything I'm saying right now, Kyle, please definitely definitely check me. But there's sort of two main takeaways that I had from maybe three actually. First off, the entire left-wing coalition in this state is so incredibly fragile. People like to look at the national movement and they like to think about how strong the progressive socialist left is right now. And I don't think that's the case in New Hampshire, even in the slightest.
Right.
And I think
it's still very new here.
Right. Well, and it's not even just that it's new, right? It's that there's been a deliberate effort for decades, and I mean decades. You can trace this back to the 90s. Like probably even further if you really want to get into it. Maybe at this point I remind people to go watch the interview I did with Eric Morser, who wrote a book about what New Hampshire was like 200 years ago when people were trying to confront corruption in the government. Point aside. This is incredibly fragile, and that's by design. I'd like everybody to consider for a moment that the entrenched power in the state that's mostly dictated by people of incredibly affluent means, regardless of their political persuasion, basically did a handshake. Maybe back in the 90s, but you could say it probably happened earlier than that. It's a solid argument to make the case that it happened earlier than that. That basically no oxygen would ever be allowed to be entertained by the left. And the mechanism that was chosen to leverage that was identity politics, specifically with the election of Jeanne Shaheen as the state's first female governor. What comes after that is Ray Buckley taking the chairmanship of the NHDP. And I'm not saying this to like impugn these folks, right, in this way. Like attacking people for their identity is never appropriate under any circumstance in any capacity. Don't ever do it. Just don't. It's going to make you look like a fucking asshole. And like you will get clapped for that, and rightfully so. But, and I know that people will say like, well, you say but, that means everything that you said before that is negated. Not so much on this case. That emphasis of sticking to these like prioritizing social issues, excuse me, rather than economic issues, right? Meant that both parties, regardless, would take the pledge. And pledge means no new income, no new broad-based tax of any kind. No income tax, no sales tax, nothing.
Yeah.
And anybody that has to pay a property tax bill sure as hell fucking knows how well that's going for us. Right? So if you want to make a economically progressive argument in this state, you're completely shut out. And the cudgel against you will be, well, how dare you go against the state Democrats?
Right.
We're the ones that fight for your social needs. but they don't fight in any way, shape, or form for your economic needs. So that's
Right.
point one. Point two is that because of all of this, reactionary sentiment has been bred, regardless of what political persuasion you are. A lot of people will talk about right-wing reactionaries, right? It's a very, very common trope. Being a reactionary is not exclusive to any political persuasion.
Right.
It does not matter what you believe, you can be a reactionary. What does that mean? It means if you are essentially like confronted with a situation that is really upsetting to you, right? Especially in a political sense. What's going to happen is you're going to freak out and you're going to have
First thing
you're
that
going to
comes
have
to
a whole
mind
bunch
is
of
what you're gonna go with.
yeah, exactly.
Stick with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a byproduct of like literally chemicals being released in your brain. Right? That is a byproduct of adrenaline and cortisol. That's not
Yeah.
something that you can reason your way through. The only thing you can do when that's happening is to slow the fuck down and chill the fuck out. The only thing you can choose to do in that moment when all of that is happening is to not react.
Right.
Because if you say anything, you will be reacting. Right? Now, because this hit at such a specific hot button issue, you're talking about an incredibly marginalized community that's basically being threatened to be completely excised from our entire societal culture right now, specifically trans people. Right? That has been like the pet target of all conservatives throughout the entire nation for a fucking hot minute. They want to delete that entire identity group from existence. So naturally, one could rightfully anticipate that anybody that's sensitive to that issue is going to be pretty reactionary. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's misplaced. Like, I understand the reasoning for it. But reactionary politics kill movements. Always, every fucking time. Unless, maybe unless you're a Republican and a fascist, in which case, like, your entire movement is built off of that. But if you're on the left, what you need is coalition. You need coalition to succeed. You need to be reaching across barriers. You need to be connecting through identity differences.
Right.
Right. And that's why identity politics is so successful at breaking apart the left. If you want to, going back to that big trope that we talked about at the beginning, if you really want to like drill down on fucking the left up, bring up identity politics. It's gonna work fucking great.
Yeah.
And I think the last point that I kind of think of, right, is who benefits from this? Who's the primary beneficiary of something like this happening? Now, I'm not saying that Alice did that in favor. Like, I'm not saying that Alice's statement was issued in direct favor of whoever this primary beneficiary is, because I have no evidence to make that claim.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like I think it's very important for everyone to remember that we're working to complete like policy goals. So we're, you know what I mean? Like that's like the end goal here. It's not like, I don't know. You go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're exactly right. Is that this is indeed about policy. Okay, now, if it's about policy, then you should be examining the candidate best suited to enact that policy. Ooh, I got some thunder. It's fun. So if you're maybe working for Christian Arudia's campaign, or you're a supporter of his, if you're working for Stephanie Shaheen's campaign, You're a supporter of hers. You're working for Maura Sullivan's campaign. You're a supporter of hers. Or you're the Republicans. You're seeing all of this happen right now. And you are cackling. You are crying, laughing, and you are eating popcorn like it's your job.
Yeah.
So I want everybody to understand the impact that there are a lot of those folks that have been trying to figure out for months now. How do we put a fracture in this coalition? A lot of them identified pretty like a good hot minute ago that the NH Talk community, a lot of the organizing that was occurring on that Discord server was like a genuine threat to them.
Right. So making people aware of what's going on with all these lawmakers.
Right. And I think they had been trying to figure out how to put like a bridle on that. And so you know, and to be fair, NH Talk people pushed that hard. They were like, yeah, like you don't control us, guys. Like they made it very well known that like we don't take your orders.
Yeah.
But it's not like there wasn't a way to break it apart. It's like, well, if I can't control them, you know, and I'd say when I say I, right, and them, saying I as in the primary beneficiary of the fracturing of NH Talk, whoever that may be. And I could not tell you who that is, right? I don't have any evidence to back up any kind of like responsibility to lay on that particular, group or individual or whatever.
Right. But in the end, there will be somebody that wins and loses. So that's not placing blame on anyone, but that's like the person that wins is going to be the beneficiary of this whole drama going down right now, basically. So
right, and to them, what it comes down to is, well, if I can't control them, then how do I drive a wedge in them? And this was a perfect wedge. This was such an amazing wedge to jam into that community, to get them to fight with each other, to get organizations that were very, had pretty serious and heated disagreements with each other, although they did it behind closed doors, to all of a sudden do it right out in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So that it just puts on blast those disagreements. There's basically showing everybody that there's no coalition. Causes everybody to doubt the effectiveness of that particular group.
Yeah. Especially when
the loudest voices are going to be the ones prevailing. Go ahead.
And literally, like, this is at a time when, like, literally the federal government, the Republicans, MAGA people, as well as the establishment Democrats are all gunning for the progressive movement right now, especially DSA. And
exactly.
Like you said, this whole building power, like through these people getting elected, the more progressive people and the DSA people, it's very like tenuous at this moment. It's not like we're guaranteed like, oh, to the moon, like we're taking off, guys. Like it's something that needs to be like worked at and maintained like properly, and solidarity maintained between all factions of like, anyone that's remotely on the left for this thing to work, basically. What my thoughts about that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, why send a psyop to have the left do a job that they'll just do to themselves all on their own anyways, with just one little push in the wrong direction?
Yeah, Bridget's in the comments as well.
Yeah, Bridget showed up, which is good. Bridget, you might want to go back into the video a little bit and catch up, because we did discuss that.
Yeah.
So I respectfully, I know you showed up around 7:30, so it's
And
we've
to
been
be
talking
fair, the
about this
show
for a minute.
did used to start at 7:30 up until a couple months ago.
True,
So
true. That's true. That's true.
probably why you saw
We
that.
did crank it earlier. Um, and look, like I'm not saying NH Talk can't come back harder, right? Like I'm not saying that that coalition is dead. Um, but it's facing some incredible challenges at this particular moment, and I think with a certain amount of prevailing voices in that space right now, and certain attitudes that are landing on the top, that I am identifying to be sort of particularly reactionary, that aren't necessarily taking time to just like not touch their keyboard for a second and be like, is there something I'm missing here? Right? Like,
Right.
is there a chance that like there's a component to this that I didn't think of? Um, as long as there's a lack of um a lack of that like self-control, that sort of like self-metering, it's difficult for me to want to be like fully throated in my support and affiliation with that community, because I'd kind of like to see them work themselves out a little better.
Yeah.
Because again, we're not really saying anything about where we land on Heath or Alice, right? Um, generally speaking, I think both Kyle and I are in agreement. That was an interpersonal problem, and if it
Yeah.
was going to come out, it should have come out months ago, right? This should not have been something that we had to look at and consider and think about and discuss and have like really fucking heated, vicious discourse about like a month out from the fucking primary.
Right.
This, we should have known about this a lot sooner if it was really that bad. You know what I mean? If it was really that serious, if it was really something we needed to be worried about that much, we needed to be aware of that sooner. Sitting there and holding on to it because you're like, well, I don't want to cause drama. It's like, well,
Yeah.
you know, you caused it now.
Right.
So what was the point?
Yeah.
Just go for it. Just do it. Like lay your cards out on the table. And what I would say is to all the people that are like, I've seen this, I've heard this, I've, you know, like I've spoken to other people, well, please come forward with your receipts,
Mhm.
and don't make anybody rely on trust me bro arguments, because it's
Yeah.
not like that's not how we build a strong movement. It's not going to work that way. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what I got on it for right now. I'll probably have more thoughts about it later as we sort of ruminate on this more, but like I'm really really worried about the deep reactionary sentiment that I see in the progressive left right now, and it shows me that a lot of people have not taken the time to like actually think about the history of the left, not just in the state but in the nation and in the world, and they aren't creating the necessary connections in order to do this. And I know that's me asking a lot as somebody who's been like really deep in this shit for decades. Um, but if you're new to this and you're not true to this, then take some time to maybe like listen and not talk. And I think that's what I got to say about it. LMAO, Carter ruminating? Nah, yeah, exactly.
Nah.
That's
Nah,
this
nah,
is
nah,
that is my
yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
job, fam. That is my fucking job.